Okay, in case you have missed the class, here's your catch-up. This is about multiplying fractions. Well, it's about a lot of things, but what we're going to start with is multiplying fractions. Here we have 1/3 times 1/4. When you multiply fractions, you multiply the numerator separately and the denominator separately. So 1 times 1 is obviously 1. 3 times 4 is 12. So your answer is 1/12. 7 times 3 will give us 21. And 8 times 4 will give us 32. So 21/32, or 21/32. C, 2 times 3 and 5 times 4, separately again. 2 times 3 is 6, and 5 times 4 is 20. And we can simplify this by dividing by 2, which will leave us with 3/10. 4 times 7 and 6 times 8. 4 times 7 is 28. 6 times 8 is 48, if I remember correctly. And we can actually divide this by 4, simplified by 4. That will give us 7/12. So 7/12. Now the next one is Criss-Cross Applesauce. And it's Criss-Cross Applesauce because what we're going to do, we're going to look at the numbers that are across from each other. So we have 3/5 divided by, multiplied by 15/9. So if you look at the crisscross numbers, 5 and 15, I can simplify this by doing division. So if I divide 5 by 5, that will leave me a 1. And 15 divided by 5 will give me a 3. Now 3 and 9, crisscross again, looking like that, can be divided by 3. Will leave me with a 1, and 9 can be divided by 3, will give me a 3. So what we are left with is 3/3, which is 1. Here we look at 7 and 28. 7 divided by 7 is 1. 28 divided by 7 is 4. And then 5 and 45. 5 divided by 5 is 1. 45 divided by 5 is 9. And that leaves us with 4/9. 9 and 18. Divide by 9. 2. And this one is simplified by 7. And that will give us 7. And altogether we have 2/7. We'll simplify this by 9. That leaves us with 9 divided by 9 is 1. 27 divided by 9 is 3. And then we'll do 4. Simplify by 4. And 16 divided by 4 is 4. And that will leave us with 1/12. That's your crisscross applesauce. Again, you just look at numbers that are across from each other and see what you can simplify it by. Now, the next one is about reciprocals. They're also flippers. Reciprocals is when you look at a number, the reciprocal of it will be a fraction. The reciprocal of 5 is 1 divided by 5. The reciprocal of 8 will be 1 divided by 8. But if you have a fraction, the reciprocal of it will be a flipped fraction. So this will be 7/1, which is simply a 7. The reciprocal of 1/9 will be 9/1, or simply 9. 7/2, the reciprocal of it will be 2/7. 5/6 flipped is 6/5. So these are reciprocals. So again, if it's a fraction, you flip it. If it's a whole number, it will be 1 divided by that number. And if it's a fraction with the denominator of whatever number is in the numerator being just 1, it's that number which was in the denominator. So it's sort of like dragging this upstairs. So 1/7 turns into just simple 7. Multiplying and dividing fraction by a whole number. When you're multiplying by a whole number, you're putting that number into the numerator. So this will be 1 times 3/6 which will be 3 over 6, and we can simplify this by dividing by 3, so this will be a 1, and that will be a 2, and that will leave us with 1 over 2, or half. 2 times 5, so we'll put the 5 into the numerator over 5, and then we can simplify this by a 5. So this will be 1, and this will be 1, and that will give us a 2. Or we could have noticed right away that 5 and 5 are crisscross, and just crossed them out, and that will give us a 1 straight away. We have division. Now when you divide, you put the number into the denominator. So that will be 3, 4 times 3. And we can simplify that by dividing by 3. So that will give us our 1. So that will be 1 over 4. Or again, since this is a division, we could have crisscrossed these, because when you divide, you put it into the denominator. So 3 over 3 gives us a 1, so it's going to be 1/4. Now here we have 8/9 divided by 4. 8, 9. 4 goes into the denominator because we're dividing by it. And then we can simplify. So this becomes a 2. This becomes a 1. So that will be 2 over 9. Now when you are dividing by a fraction, so here we had, oh, there's more. Yeehaw. So 3 and 4, I'm going to look at crisscross. This will give me a 1, and instead of 8, I will have a 2. So that will be 6. Or I can do it in steps. Again, when I'm multiplying, I'm putting my number that I'm multiplying by into the numerator. So 3 times 8 over 4. And then I can do the simplifying part. So this, I divide both by 4. That will leave me with a 6. Or again, I could have done this 1, 2, and that will leave me 3 times 2, 2 as 6. Now here we have 9/20 divided by 18. The long way will be 9 divided by 20 as it was before. So 9/20 dividing by 18, so I'm putting 18 into the denominator. Dividing by 9, 1, 2, so it's going to be 1 over 40. Or I could have noticed right away that I can simplify this. Dividing by 9, this will be 2, and that would lead us to 1 over 20 times 2, that is 40. So 1 over 40. So this was multiplying and dividing by a whole number. Again, when we multiply by a whole number, we put it into the numerator. When we divide by the whole number, we put it into the denominator. Now, how do we divide one fraction by another fraction? When you're dividing by a fraction, you are multiplying by a reciprocal. So I have 1 over 3 divided by 2 over 5. I'm going to rewrite this as 1 over 3 and multiply by the reciprocal, which is 5 over 2. And that will give me 5 divided by 6. Now b, so I have 1/4 divided by 3/8, which is the same as 1/4 multiplied by the reciprocal of 3/8. We flip this. 8 over 3. Simplify, divide by 4, both these sides, the crisscross applesauce. So that will give me 2 over 3. Here's C. 5 over 12. Let's rewrite this to get our reciprocal. 4 over 10. And then we'll simplify this. Dividing by 5, this will leave me with a 1 here and a 2. And then here I will have 1 if I divide by 4 and 3 if I divide by 4. So together that will give me 1 over 6. 9/48 divided by 27/8. Rewrite 9 over 48 multiplied by the reciprocal, which is 8 over 27. So now let's simplify this. We can divide this by 9. That will give us a 1 and a 3. And this will divide by 8. So that will be 1, and that will be 6. And that will leave us with 1 over 18. Now on the next page we have this scary thing, which is called a complex or a compound fraction, because we have this big fraction right there. This would be our fraction line, and this will be our numerator, and this is our denominator. So what we do is we just rewrite this as 7 over 12, and we divide by 28 over 16. And as you remember, when we divide, as we multiply by a reciprocal, so 7 over 12 multiplied by 16 over 28. Then simplify this, dividing by 7, 1 over 4. And this we can simplify by 4. So this will be 4 and this will be 3. And then we can even simplify it more. And that will be 1 over 3. 4 over 15 divided by 2/5. So that's like 4 over 15 multiplied by the reciprocal, which is 5 over 2. Simplify. 2, 1, 1, 3. And that gives us 2/3. Oops, right there, 2/3. 6 over 49 divided by 3/7. Rewrite 6 over 49 multiplied by the reciprocal, which is 7/3. Simplify, divide by 3, and divide by 7. 2 over 7. And our last scary compound fraction, rewrite again, 5 over 64 times the reciprocal, 32 over 15. Simplify. 1, 3. 32 goes into 64 twice, so I can go ahead and divide by 32. So that will give me a 2, and altogether 1 over 6. And that is the lesson.